Hey guys, I'm Ash, travel addict and owner of Adventure Travel Pro. In this series, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know and do when organising your first solo backpacking trip overseas. From overcoming fears, planning your trip, and choosing the right travel gear for you, to things like how do you stay safe and healthy while abroad, or how do you meet people and make friends, and also tips on how to budget effectively so you don't run out of money while you're overseas. It's all here. And I'm so looking forward to holding your hand throughout the entire journey of organising your trip end to end. Now, if you're a first-time solo traveller, you're in luck. I want to give you access to our free solo travel starter pack. This pack includes access to our 5-day solo travel bootcamp mini course and also our free solo travel checklist, where I outline the 10 crucial steps you should follow when organising your first backpacking trip. And it's all for free. Just sign up via the link below and we can get you started. Now let's jump straight into the video. Hey guys, I'm Ash and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be running through a very exciting topic, which is all about choosing your destination and planning your itinerary. So this is one of my favorite parts in the journey of organizing your first trip overseas. So I can't wait to share with you some of the greatest tips that I've learned on my journey and help you with organizing your trip. So let's get into it. So for the first part, I want to talk to you about how can you actually choose your destination, or what are things that you want to keep in mind and consider when deciding on where you want to travel for the first time solo. So a couple of things to keep in mind. One is, of course, your interests. What are you interested in? Are you someone who's looking for culture and for a different experience than what you have back home? Or are you a nature buff like me? Do you love certain landscapes and nature and are looking for a certain type of experience, whether it's beach experience or a mountain and rainforest or beyond kind of experience? Also as well, you want to consider about whether or not you want to go somewhere that has the same language as your native tongue. So for a lot of English speakers, it can be a really good idea to actually start with a location that you're comfortable in from a communication perspective. There can be nothing more scary than when you land in a destination, you don't speak the language, no one understands you, and you end up becoming a mime trying to use your gestures to communicate with people. And especially as a first-time traveler, that can be quite overwhelming and scary. So I do definitely recommend, think about choosing somewhere that is where they at least speak English or they speak your local language, because it's going to make your trip so much smoother, less stressful, and potentially more enjoyable as well. You also want to think about your safety as well. You probably want to choose somewhere that has a good reputation for safety, especially for women, if you're traveling solo, and also just in general, low crime rates, or even at least just kind of a familiar environment to what you're used to back home. So when I did my first trip, I traveled to Indonesia actually. This is the first solo trip that I did, which was for a month. I went to Indonesia, and that was pretty good because you guys would probably be surprised to know, but I actually learned Indonesian at school. That was one of in our high school, and also my primary school, Indonesian was one of those key languages that we could do as a subject. So I did it all the way up through VCE, and so I can actually speak some Bahasa. So I chose Indonesia because it's a little bit different to the culture in Australia. It's close enough that if something happened, whether it could be something happening back home or something happening to me overseas, it's not far from Australia. It's just a pretty quick flight home. But also as well, there are some touristy areas in Indonesia, like Bali, but also rural areas which aren't as touristy. So I got a bit of a mix of both, where I could kind of meet people and have that kind of touristy experience, but then I could also go out to some other areas like Sumatra, for example, and actually get to really experience the nature and the forest and get away from some of that tourist scene, which was some of the highlights of my trips, and seeing orangutans, and it was just amazing. But so yeah, I definitely suggest, think about that. Think about your interests. Do you want city? Do you want a touristy place? Do you want to be, amongst nature? Is it a safe location? Is it somewhere that's relatively predictable? There's not a lot of political conflict, or it's not too far from home or too remote that if something happens, you're in trouble. And even just crime rates, in terms of there's like, what do they call it? Like a sort of that lower level crime, I guess. There's a certain word for it, but I can't think about it. Where, like pickpocketing and like stuff getting stolen, or, there's certain crimes where they petty theft. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so those kind of things you'll find anywhere, really, no matter what destination you go to. Maybe there's a couple that don't have it, but those crimes are kind of just expected wherever you go. But I'm meaning more so like your terrorism threats, or like bombing or gun violence or gangs taking over the town, or those type of more intense safety issues. So yeah, I definitely suggest doing your research before you choose your destination. And a great website for this, in my go-to always, is the Smart Traveller website. So that's the government site in Australia. And I know that there is a similar one for the US, and I'm sure each country probably has their own, or their own. You can always find it online. But I love that website because it tends to highlight, the destinations where you need to exercise a high degree of caution or do not travel, a medium degree of caution, or even a low degree of caution, or, safe. So that can give you a really good idea of whether some of the places you're considering are actually good for solo travelers or not. And especially women, that's a big one to think about too. Like there's some countries that treat women a little bit differently than men. So you do just have to, unfortunately, be a bit mindful of that too when you're booking places. So another consideration to think about when you're choosing your destination too is the weather and the best time to visit. There is nothing worse than when you don't do your research and you end up landing somewhere when it's like monsoon season or cyclone season, or insanely hot where it's like 40 degrees plus, or it's incredibly cold and it's going to be wet and rainy and really depressing. So I always try and time my trips with the best time of the year to go. Or not even that, actually, because I don't like being smothered by tourists. So I usually tend to try and go either side of the main tourist season. And the reason I do this is because often, one, prices are cheaper because you're not in that peak tourist season. But also as well, I find that if you go on the cusp of either side, you still get pretty good weather. You're not going fully into winter or fully into summer, like your autumns and springs can be quite good. But for some of your countries that they don't have, like summer, autumn, winter, spring, maybe they're a wet season or a dry season. I just find if you're kind of just on the cusp of the main popular time to go, you can have the best of both worlds, less tourists, pretty good weather, and sometimes cheaper prices as well. So definitely can be quite advantageous if you want your budget to spread further too. So I know I talked before a little bit about cultural considerations as well when choosing your destination. And specifically, language is one, but a couple of other ones is things like religion, anything that kind of impacts your clothing or general opinions, and just that overall cultural side of things, and what their beliefs are, and maybe some traditions that they abide to. So all of these things are really important alongside language, because it can impact sometimes what you're wearing in a country. If you want to be respectful to their local culture, sometimes you have to actually adjust what you would normally wear. So for me, like, I've traveled through the Middle East, I've traveled through Africa, and I've also traveled through quite a few different areas in Asia. And obviously within those zones, there are some Muslim communities as well. So with the Islamic religion, typically, it depends where you are, but definitely in some places they want you to cover up. So sometimes you got to cover up past your elbows, or you got to wear like dresses or pants that cover past your knees. So no short shorts, no tank tops. Like, it's very strict of like, okay, like you got to cover up. And then you sometimes, in some cultures too, or some countries, you need to also wear like the hijab, or wear, you know, something that covers your hair and your head, especially when visiting like sacred places or religious sites. So that's something that's really important to consider, of whether do you want that, or are you simply just going to want to like lounge on a beach in your bikini and don't have to worry about you know, abiding to cultural rules and traditions. Because again, like I've never had a problem with it. Like for me, it's fine, like no issue. I'm always happy to respect the local countries and the cultures that I visit. But I do know for some people, you know, if you want to run around in your bikini and run around in, you know, maybe it's hot weather and you want to just be free to do what you please, then possibly choose a place that's more touristy, or where it's not like a Muslim community, or other, there's not just Muslim, there's lots of other communities where they have certain expectations in how women should dress. Another thing as well, like I talked about budget before, and the importance of considering the cost of living at the place that you go to. So there are a couple of really great sites that I use and that you can use that actually give you a breakdown and a comparison between the cost of living in your home country versus the cost of living of the place where you're going. And so this can be really helpful because it gives you insight into, like, let's say if you go out for lunch, or if you go out for a dinner, or if you're, you know, just wanting to know basic costs of things like fuel, it does that side-by-side comparison, so you can work out exactly how much you need to budget, or at least have a pretty good idea of how much your daily cost could be, which then is going to really help you when you're planning out your trip. So one of them is Numbeo, and there's a couple of other ones, but I'll make sure to include a link to some of these great resources in the description below so that you can check them out and use them while you start planning your trip. Another consideration is your budget. And this is something that is really important to think about, because depending, especially from Australia, you know, depending on where you want to go, the flights can be really expensive just on their own, and you haven't even got there yet. So when you think about, you know, offloading or spending, you know, a couple of grand on return flights from the destination, so already you're up to a few grand. And then if you go somewhere like a Switzerland or an Austria, or a US or UK, some of those countries where the Australian dollar isn't as strong, you can actually spend your budget really quickly. Whereas if you choose somewhere that maybe is a little bit like, maybe not a first world country, maybe like, you know, the currency is a bit more favorable, the Australian dollar will go a further distance, and also it's a shorter flight from Australia, you can already make quite a big difference in terms of the budget you're going to need to have for your trip, based on those decisions as well. So consider that as well, just because obviously it depends how much money you've saved up and how long you've got before you go. So when researching your destination, obviously this is not going to tell you how to suck eggs, but you know, you can use your social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. They can be really great, and even Facebook can be really great resources for you to use. I use Google a lot, actually. Like I'm a bit of a social media grandma, but I tend to use Google for everything for me when I'm searching destinations. And I find that that's really good because it gives you that straight away list of things to do in that place, or really popular destinations that you want to consider. Also as well, a great resource is Lonely Planet's travel guides. So I know for me, when I was getting started with travel, I was at uni, and I remember they had to STA travel there, or Star Travel. I think they closed down now, but I used to always go to Star Travel and get their free guides. Their free travel guides, and just look through them and get inspiration. And it kind of like fueled my dream of like all the places that I wanted to go to. So I definitely love to sit down and just like flick through the guides, see all the photos, learn about the places I want to go. And Lonely Planet's guides are also really good for that. And yeah, they offer a lot of great ones online. So I'll share them with you, and you can check them out and see if that's something that you'd like to download. And so then you've got like, you know, you've got something you can actually just read through, and just that outlines everything in one place for you, which is really, really cool. So check the description below, and I'll include some links for the Lonely Planet guides. And otherwise, yeah, you can use your Googles, your social media apps, you know, and more to choose your actual destination. Cool. So that's all I wanted to cover in today's session. So some of the things we talked about was this is a really fun, exciting part of your trip, and I love this part. Like, I love the research. I love spending time on really digging deep into my destination and all the things I want to do. But definitely consider your budget, the time that you want to spend there, whether you want to you're interested in culture, or whether you want a city vibe, or you want natural landscapes and are interested in that side of things. But also your personal interest too, whether you want to speak the same language as the people when you go there, or whether you really want to just throw yourself in the deep end with a different language, different culture, all of the above. Also think about your budget too. So how much budget are you working with? Do you need to look for somewhere that's closer to Australia and a shorter flight, and maybe a currency where the Australian dollar is a lot stronger and will go a much further distance? Or do you actually have quite a bit of a budget to work with, that you can travel somewhere a bit further away, spend a couple of grand on flights, and actually afford and to be a bit luxe and actually, indulge and go somewhere where it might be more expensive in Australia? Either or. It's just trying to work with what you have and what you want. That's all you need to do. The other tip is the safety side of things. So don't forget to look at the Smart Traveller website and just check out what level of caution do you need to consider, or do you need to keep in mind for that destination? Is it a do not travel level of caution? Is it a low risk level, which is completely fine for both solo females and male travelers? I'll make sure to include links to those Lonely Planet travel destination guides, some of my favorite solo travel apps, and some of the most popular platforms that I always use when organizing my trip. I am so excited for you. I really hope that you've got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, please make sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe to us for more tips on solo travel. And yeah, I just look so forward to holding your hand throughout this journey of organizing your first solo trip overseas. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it helpful. And don't forget, if you want to gain access to our free solo travel starter pack, which includes our 5-day solo travel bootcamp mini course and our 10-step solo travel checklist, simply go to our website via the link below and sign up today. That's it for today's video. I hope to see you tomorrow, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of solo travel. I look so forward to sharing all my latest tips and tricks to help you with organizing your first solo backpacking trip overseas confidently and safely.